Hi, I recently had a question about what types of books Usborne Books and More offers to teach kids how to read, and so I thought I would just share my experience of how I taught my son how to read. I actually have four children. Three of them are grown and gone. They've all graduated high school, and two of them have graduated college now, and I've homeschooled them from kindergarten on up through 12th grade, and I got to teach all three of my girls how to read, and now my son how to read as well. So I have a lot of experience with that, and as far as that goes. I hosted my very first party, Usborne Books and More party, to get the My First Reading library, hopefully at a discount. I ended up getting it for free and a ton of other stuff as well. So I was very excited about that. But at the time that I hosted that party, my son was only 8 months old. So if that tells you anything about how much I love teaching kids how to read, that says it all. So I will just share a little bit about what we did with him. From the very beginning, we read lots and lots of storybooks. We would read at all different times of the day. He loved to have a story whenever he went to bed. It was like a switch would flip. He would be fussing and crying because he didn't want to go to bed or take his nap, and I'd pull out a book, and then he'd be happy as a clam, and then he'd go to sleep very nicely. That was just his thing. He loved stories, which is fabulous. Whenever we would read a story, we would always make sure to point to the words that we were reading. So he got the idea that we read top to bottom, left to right. And then if we read alphabet books, like this is a really fun one that we offer at Usborne Books and More, Alfie and Bet's ABC. They're trying to find which one is the best letter of the alphabet. We would point to the letters and sometimes say the letter sound that that particular letter makes. So he learned to recognize what the letters looked like, and he learned that the letters make noises, and those noises make words. So he got that association really early. So that's one of the alphabet books that we offer. Another one, this is a really cute one. It looks like a very serious, fancy book, but it's actually a really silly story about all different kinds of things that go wrong at the zoo. And you see both the capital and lowercase letter, a whole bunch of alliteration, starting with letter C, and then the same thing on every page, capital and lowercase, and then a whole bunch of alliteration here with the letter D. So when my son was very young, I mentioned, pointing to the letters as I read. He was less than 2 years old. I want to say maybe a year and a half, if that. The one day I saw him sitting in bed with a book, and he was actually looking at it and just babbling. He was just saying nonsense words, nothing real, but he wasn't even able to speak well enough to actually, make up a real story yet. But he was turning the pages properly. He knew that we read top to bottom, left to right, and then when we get to the end of that page, we turn the page and we start over. So he really understood from a very young age how a book worked, and just was very familiar with books. So that's the first thing. And always make sure when you're reading to your kids, you frame it in a very positive way. Like you don't want to tell your kids, oh, hurry up, we have to get our reading in today. You want to make sure to tell your kids, oh, let's hurry up so that we can get our reading in today before we go to soccer practice. You want to make it something very exciting, a very positive experience. I loved reading time with my kids. That was like my favorite school subject, was reading, because we would all sit on the sofa and snuggle together, and it was just we created a lot of memories that way. And honestly, reading aloud with my kids opened up a lot of conversations that we never might have had otherwise. And I cherish that. So read aloud time is very important, even when kids are older, not just when they're younger. So keep that in mind too. After they're able to read independently, still read aloud with them. Okay, so that is what we did when he was very young. We just read a lot of stories. Use your library. The Dolly Parton Imagination Library is a program that will send you one free book a month until your child is 5 years old. Most areas have that, not everywhere does. Obviously, Usborne Books and More, we've got tons of books that are really get kids engaged and hands on the books, and get them really excited about books and excited about learning. Whatever resources you have available to you, use those. But definitely get your kids reading every day as often as you can. Get them excited about it. So when he was very young, we did alphabet books, we did all kinds of storybooks. And then when he was probably about 3 years old or so, we started using a website called Teach Your Monster to Read. It's been revamped now. It's just called teachyourmonster.com. The website is free to use. And they also have an app you can buy. It's like $5 maybe on Google Play. But that game was a really fun one because he got to create his own little monster and then play games with the monster. And then as he played the games, he was learning the letters and learning the letter sounds. So once he started putting together consonant, vowel, consonant words, very simple words, then I pulled out that reading library that I had gotten for him when he was 8 months old. I pulled this one out, and this is when we started actually learning how to read. So this is a set of 50 books. It is $79.99 for these 50 books. And this whole green set here that you see here is all shared reading. And let me show you what I mean by that. So this first book in the series is called Pirate Pat. And then we're going to read this book together, not by himself. He doesn't read it himself. He reads it with me, which just makes him really boost his confidence quite a lot. So here we read, the night was cold, the sky was black, the window rattled. And then he reads, tap, tap, tap. And then we turn to the next page, the same thing. The story continues, and he reads, sit, Sam, sit. And, the rest of the book is the same way. And then at the very end of each of these books, there are little games that he can play that test his comprehension to make sure he actually understood what he was reading. He wasn't just making sounds. And then in the very, very back here, for the parents or the teachers, we have all the letters, and then later on, the blends like SH, IGH, things like that, the blends that the kids are going to be learning in that particular book. So you know what they need practice with. These books are numbered according to which ones you do first and then which ones you do last. And of course they get more and more challenging as you go on. These ones here are independent readers, and I'll show you the first one in this one. So as we can see, these are ones he would read all by himself here. And there are more words on each page, of course, for him to read, but still pretty easy. And again, with those games in the back for him to play when he is all finished to make sure that he's understanding what he reads. And then the ones with the pink spine, this little pinky, purpley color spine here, is the last set of books in the series, and these ones of course would be the most challenging ones. So there's also a QR code on the top of the box if you look there, and this, if you scan this, it'll take you online to a whole bunch of support. There are like flashcards that you can print, different games you can play, things like that. So there's a lot of support, even more than what we have in this set here, to help your child learn how to read. So this is what we did first. Then after we completed that set, we moved on to our phonics readers. Now, phonics readers can be purchased individually for $6.99, or I prefer doing this, get these combined volumes. This one is $14.99, and it contains 6 of the phonics reader books that you can purchase individually for $6.99. So you save a lot of money doing things that way. So every phonics reader that we have is going to focus on a different sound. So this one, obviously, cow takes a bow, is going to be the ow sound, the OW sound. And then the stories all are very rhythmic and rhyming, and they're very silly. The fact that they have that nice rhythm to them is going to help the kids identify if they mess up. So if the story all of a sudden isn't sounding quite right, they're going to know they read something wrong. But the stories are very silly, so that makes it a lot of fun to read. So this is just one of our first ones. And then, of course, the other phonics readers, of course, get more and more challenging. So after we finished all of our phonics readers, then we moved on to another dual reader set. This one is Poppy and Sam's Farmyard Tales. The newer version has a yellow cover. The stories are exactly the same. This is a set of 24 stories. There's also a CD and a QR code. They can hear the stories being read aloud. But this one is also dual readers, just like that first section in the My First Reading library that you saw. So the parent is going to read the longer portion and here at the bottom, and then the child can read the shorter portion at the top. And what is great about these stories is whether you read the longer portion at the bottom or the shorter portion at the top, or you read both of them together, the stories are going to make sense. So no matter what you read, if they want to read independently and just read the shorter portion, the stories will make sense. If you want to read aloud to them and only read the bottom portion until they're able to read the top, then the story will still make sense. It does not matter. Another fun thing about this is that the illustrator, Stephen Cartwright, hid a little yellow duck on every single page, and the kids love to find, like here's the yellow duck right here, And here, hiding behind the piggy, there's a little yellow duck hiding on every page. These stories are so sweet. They're about the Boot family that lives on Apple Tree Farm. The mom works the farm with Poppy and Sam, her kids, and their dog Rusty, and the dad works at the train station. And it's just all about their adventures, the adventures that the trouble that the animals get into, at the train station, things that happen with the train, things like that. So it's really fun. Other dual readers we have shared reading like this are Bible stories. We also have a book of princess stories, and then just the train stories from this is sold in a separate volume as well. So these are the shared readers that we had read after that. After we finished those, we moved on to the Read with Usborne series. And these are sets, not a set, I shouldn't say that. They're all sold individually. These ones are $3.99 each, and there are 4 different levels to that. So here's just an example of one of our level 1 readers. Some of these are fiction stories, some are nonfiction, some are like classics like fables and Greek myths and things like that. So there's level 1. And then the next level up, level 2 here, as you can see, we have some more words on each page. And then level 3, my son loves myths, the Greek myths and the Norse myths especially. And then once you get to level 4, you're into kind of beginner chapter books here. So this is what the last thing we really did. And then he was able to move on into chapter books. This is one of our beginning chapter book series. School of Monsters is our very newest one that I would say you would use even before this one. We don't happen to own that one because my son is just beyond that at this point. So this is the first actual chapter book series he started reading. This is the Hey Jack series. These can be purchased for $4.99 each, or they are available in a collection. There's also a series just like this one, Jack's best friend, Billy B. Brown. She appears in his stories and he appears in her stories, and they each have their own series that you can buy the individual books for $4.99 or the collections to save money. But these were actually written by Sally Rippin, whose son had dyslexia, and she was having trouble finding books he was able to read, so she wrote her own, and I'm so impressed with her. But as you can see here, there are some illustrations in the book, but not on every page. It doesn't really feel like a baby book. You're going to have no more than 50 words on a page. Some of the words are in bold, making it a little bit easier for those ones to stand out. And then all of the sentences are going to end on the same page on which they began. So you're not going to start a sentence here and then have to turn the page to finish reading it. Sometimes that's a little distracting to kids. So these are the books that I use to teach my son how to read. If you have any questions, let me know. I'm here to help you. Thanks for watching.